Greetings and strangulations once again, monster lovers and Halloween enthusiasts. Come on in. You join me at the Champagne Room here at the lovely Horror Hotel. That's right. In beautiful, glamorous downtown Chatfield, Ohio, where it's time once again for Creepy Cheapies with Dr. Lady. I'm Edmo Ectical, and you know, sometimes mask companies will release an older design, they'll reissue it for a later generation, and when they bring it back, they'll do it with some fanfare. They'll call it a retro edition or an old school or, you know, resurrection collector edition. But sometimes the folks at Zagoni Studios just throw an old one back into the lineup subtly and quietly, and you might not even catch it. So that's why you have me here to point out to you this charming guy, Dr. Deranged. Now, Dr. Deranged first came out in 1980. That's true. And he was available for several years and then discontinued for many, many years, and then kind of unceremoniously and quietly reintroduced into the Zagoni Studios lineup around 2018. And as of this video recording, do I say taping? Should I say taping? Yeah, as of when I'm saying these words you're hearing, at that time these were available from the Zagoni website for about 50 bucks and from several dealers on eBay and Amazon for around 60 bucks. So 50 to 60 bucks. Pretty good, I think, for this nice of a mask with this excellent job of the hair work and eyebrows and everything. Now, Dr. Deranged back in the 80s, when Zagoni was called Be Something Studios, was this same sculpture created by the legendary Bill Eastrom, famous Zagoni Studios / Be Something Studios character designer and sculptor. Same sculpture. Some of the copies back then, I don't know if they all had the same kind of fur, because I didn't see them all, did I? No. But some of them didn't have this sort of two-tone silvery gray. I remember him back then having just a flat light gray. I like the new version better. I think this looks better than back then. Although maybe some of them had this type of fur back in the 80s. I'm not sure, because it's too much trouble to go back to the 80s and check. So I'm just going to, you know, show you this one and see what you think. I think he's great. I saw him at the 2018 Mask Fest on the Zagoni Studios table, and darn it, embarrassingly, I remembered his name incorrectly. Yeah, I said, oh, look, it's Dr. Demented, but it's actually Dr. Deranged. Now, the fact that his name is Dr. Deranged, of course, begs the question, huh? Is that really his name? I mean, were his parents like Fred and Ethel deranged? Is he part of the deranged family of Passaic, New York? See, I don't know. I kind of doubt it. You know, I think that's probably not his real name, because my, what a cruel trick of fate that would be if it were the case that, you know, his name was Deranged, you know, like his full name was like, you know, Charles Edward Deranged. See, that would just be unkind for a person to have that name, and, well, isn't any wonder he'd grow up to be deranged. But I think that's not his real name. I think that's the name that these superstitious local townspeople or villagers nearby gave him when they found out he was conducting deranged experiments. Obviously, he's a mad scientist. Now, you may think of mad scientists as being like bald guys with maybe white hair in the back that sticks out kind of crazy, and you may think, well, why is a mad scientist sort of an old wrinkled man with a long scruffy beard? Well, there is a tradition of mad scientists with beards, thanks to Boris Karloff as Dr. Neiman in 1944's House of Frankenstein. I'm pausing, hoping for some thunder sound effect right there after I said House of Frankenstein. Wouldn't it be nice if there was... Anyway, Boris Karloff as Neiman in House of Frankenstein looked like an old man with a beard, and that happened to be the character that was the inspiration for the Don Post Studios Mad Doctor and later Mad Scientist masks in the 60s and 70s. and other mad scientists with long hair and gray beards sort of spun off from that. But that's the origin, I think, of the mad scientist as pop culture icon, as an old man with a scruffy beard. That's Boris Karloff's character in House is the one that most popularized that look for mad scientists. Now, if you're going to use this guy as a mad scientist at the haunted house or the haunted dentist's office or the haunted chocolate shop or whatever it is you're haunting, obviously you'd put him with a lab coat as a costume, or something that looks like a doctor would be wearing it, scrubs of some sort, maybe an apron, something that looks like a doctor or a surgeon might be wearing. But another great thing about this very cool and dramatic and fun mask, Dr. Deranged, is you could use him every year as a different character, basically. You could bring him back at the haunted house year after year, and he wouldn't have to be a mad scientist, even though that's his calling, really. That's his favorite career. But you could also use him as, he could be a dead guy in a cemetery with that wrinkly face. He wouldn't be like an ancient, super rotted zombie, but he'd be a pretty scary one. He'd be even better, I think, as wearing old rags, wearing torn up raggedy stuff. He'd be even better as a sort of forgotten prisoner character, like an old man who's been locked up in the dungeon for 40 years. And the years have not been kind, you might say. He could be a crazy old hermit kind of character. Or, you know what else he would be? Excellent. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. If I'm having a haunted house, here, I'll just make this up for you. Here's what I'll do is I'll have him come out at some scene that looks like an old house where some crazy people, like in Texas Chainsaw, or The Hills Have Eyes, or Wrong Turn, a movie like that. He'll be one of those guys, and he'll come out and holler at the guests and tell them to, you know, get off my property, you know, that kind of thing, and maybe have his old shooting iron or something with him and like chase you away, and maybe then if you don't leave he'll say, Bubba, these trespassers here again, and then Bubba comes out and he's like a big horrible leather-faced or a guy with a pig head and a chainsaw or a big hammer or something, and he chases people away. Wouldn't he be good as like the crazy old grandpa of a family of like you know, murderous cannibals? I think. Okay. Yeah, this is why I have to certify my videos as not fit for children. Even though I don't use a lot of bad language in them, sometimes the subject matter gets a little, you know, a little rough around the edges. So that's why I say these videos are for adult. This is adult content. But anyway, old Dr. Deranged, pick one up and add him to your mask collection today. Before they discontinue him again for 20 or 30 years, you know? And they say you should always keep a clear head, so I keep mine inside my Dr. Deranged mask.